Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Soul Wide Open. I am so glad that you're here. And today we're going to be talking about an issue that is really personal to me. And the topic is really around the reasons why we end up attracting or getting into relationships, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, no matter what kind of a relationship it is, we getting out of it, or sometimes even in the middle of it, we kind of have this realization, oh my gosh, I am fighting for this relationship to work. What are the reasons why we fight for relationships instead of just learning how to receive love? Instead, we fight for it because it is more comfortable. We're going to get into the reasons why, which is a very personal, deep topic for me. So let's get into it.
Welcome to the Soul Wide Open podcast with your host, author and certified trauma-informed coach, Michelle Renee.
Okay, I just did a Facebook post about this not that long ago, and I said in my post, I am going to do a podcast episode about this because it was like this big wake up moment for me in this current situation. I'm going to just call it what it is. It's been a situationship for like 6 months. And it's never been sort of this full-blown relationship, but it's been something that's been really fun. This is a person that I really like, that I enjoy being around. We have such a good time together. We laugh, we have connection, we have insane chemistry and passion, and we've got all of that. But he made it very clear that he is a very wounded man because of a past relationship, his past marriage, and that he was just not going to go full-blown into anything. He was just not ready for that. And I decided it was my choice. He was very honest with me, and it was my choice to say, okay, I'm going to stay in this. I'm going to see if I can keep this kind of casual. And what happened was I ended up learning this huge, huge lesson from him, which is probably the reason why he was sent into my life in the first place. So we get into this about 4 months, and it's all fun and games. Well, hello, I'm who I am. And of course I catch feelings, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I start thinking it could be more, wishing it could be more. Next thing you know, I am not that, don't care, everything's good, just do my own thing, independent, him doing his own thing. I start feeling certain feelings that I didn't really expect starting to come up. And what happened was I began to realize that I was fighting for his attention. I began allowing certain things I would never allow. I began sort of accepting behaviors and things I wouldn't allow. It just turned into this other part of me that I have not actually had to address in a really long time. This guy brought up a lot of sort of old stuff for me that I have not addressed or looked at in a really long time. And the biggest thing is that I began to wonder why I was more comfortable fighting for somebody to love me instead of just attracting somebody and receiving it. Instead of just receiving, what was it about this sort of, wanting to fight for it that was a much deeper issue that I had to take a look at? And so that's exactly what I did. I took myself like a weekend, and I thought, I'm going to dive into this. I really want to figure this out. So that's what I did. And here's what I dug up. I started looking at my childhood and thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I grew up in a home where I had to actually fight to be seen. I had to plead for attention. I had to perform in order to get sort of compliments. I had to jump through hoops for love in my home growing up. I mean, we really had to jump through hoops. We had to tiptoe. We had to walk on eggshells. We had to do so many things in order to really receive any sort of validation and a compliment and sort of that healthy kind of love, because I grew up in a home that was highly, highly dysfunctional, with very dysfunctional parents that were in a very toxic relationship together. And that's what I grew up with. It was violent. It was, beyond toxic. It was really, really a difficult, relationship to witness growing up and trying to figure out, is this normal? I would go to my friend's house who were these peace loving, hippie souls that were just calm and peaceful and loving. And it was so different from what I was experiencing at home. And I eventually learned, like, this isn't normal. And this isn't like this isn't a loving relationship. This is a controlling relationship. And this is not the example that I want to follow. But as much as we sort of, again, the word fight, we fight to go, I'm never going to have that kind of relationship. I'm going to do everything different. There's a part of all of that just sort of sticks with us. And it's really tough sometimes to shake that off until much later in life, like right now, where I'm really looking at this and digging in and going, oh my gosh, I was totally conditioned to fight for love. Of course, this showed up in my adult life and in my adult relationships. Growing up in that kind of environment actually instills this false belief that pain is normal, pain is associated with love, performance is associated with love, and it teaches us that breadcrumbs are something you can actually survive off of. As I began digging even a little bit deeper, I discovered the 5 ways that all of that, and the way that I grew up and the way that I was programmed growing up, the 5 ways that all showed up in my adult life and in my adult relationships. Number 1, growing up in a home that was intense. It was always so intense, and it was very emotionally charged in a very negative way, because something that's emotionally charged can be positive also, but it was very intense and emotionally charged in a really negative way. And growing up with that intensity in my adult life and in my adult relationships related to love, that intensity I actually have mistook for intimacy. I actually mistook that for closeness, or that someone cares about me. Love growing up came through conflict and fear and performance. Calm love to me just feels boring to me, to be honest. Until I really dug into this, I really didn't know what to do with calm love, because it just feels so foreign to me. It feels very suspicious to me. And actually, it just feels unsafe. Number 2, I choose, even recently, with my recent situationship, I choose emotionally unavailable men. When your partner is emotionally unavailable, they absolutely do not have the capacity to fully choose you. And I've actually been choosing partners that really don't ever fully choose me, because deep down, I grew up never being fully chosen or fully seen or fully acknowledged for who I was or how smart I was or any of those things. So for me to have somebody, not fully choose me, it feels normal. Number 3, I am hyper independent. Like, anybody who knows me will be like, yeah, she's hyper independent. And that's something that I'm actually been working on, because I really desire that partner in my life. And I really want to be able to, surrender more in that relationship and really soften in the right relationship. And that is something I truly, truly desire, and something that is really, really important for me. But growing up having to be hyper independent because of the need to survive, that was such a survival mechanism that into my later years, into my adult life and in relationships, that shows up as me having real difficulty relying on anybody but myself. And that's tough when you have a partner too, because, they want you to rely on them. They want you to ask them for things. They want to feel like you're partner, not like you are somebody who treats them like you can't rely on them. And the first little thing, that happens, you're like, forget it, I'll do it myself. Forget it, I'm fine. That is like seriously has been my default setting for a really long time. And that's not exactly conducive for a relationship to be long lasting and to feel that surrender and to be soft. And so that is a way that I really discovered has showed up in my adult years and my adult relationships. And the other thing that actually goes along with that is that I also began sometimes I just overgive and I overperform and I show up in that role and then do all these great things and then sort of wait for validation, because that's exactly how I grew up. It was like, what more can I do around the house? What more can I do to make sure that they're noticing I'm doing a good job so that I don't get, the next whooping that's coming, or that I don't get the next rage blow up that's coming that's directed and aimed at me. If I do all these things right and I perform and I overgive and I over show up, then I'm going to be able to avoid that wrath. And so, obviously that is going to show up later in life until we really hit it right between the eyes and address it and decide, okay, I am now aware of these behaviors, and it's really up to us and only us to say, how can I correct this? What are some of the tools I can use to correct this? Whether it's meditation, whether it's therapy, whether it's exercise, or every time you're feeling that, take a step back and take a beat and understand that it's okay for you to say, okay, I'm recognizing that I'm doing this. Say all of this to yourself, and then come to a place where you're ready to say these exact same things to your partner, or to this other person. Hey, this is what happened in that situation. I just want to explain it real quick. I'm working on this. I mean, communication to me in any relationship, whether it's business, personal, work, family, is the absolute number one glue to keep it all together. So, have that inner dialogue with yourself, but don't be afraid to have that dialogue with your partner and the other person that you're in this with, right? They need to know. You need to be able to share this with them in a way that's going to be received in a really positive way. So that's something that has been an important part of my sort of emotional maturity and transformation since I really dove into this and started recognizing all of these 5 ways that this has been showing up and affecting my relationships, and not in a good way. Number 4, I have a ridiculously high pain tolerance, and that isn't something you shout from the rooftops, right? This isn't something that you're proud of, because when you have a high emotional pain tolerance and even a high physical pain tolerance because of the emotional aspect of this, that isn't exactly something to be proud of. It means that you have endured so much pain that you're used to it. No one wants to get used to that. I don't want to be used to that. But guess what? I've been used to that for a really, really long time with everything that I've been through, and I don't want to be used to that anymore. I don't want to have a high pain tolerance anymore. And so in recognizing this, it is my absolute intention to no longer have a high emotional pain tolerance for emotional abuse or emotional absence or emotional confusion is another thing, right? I have this higher tolerance for the confusion and the pain and the absence and the pulling away and the coming back. And, I mean, this is all part of how I grew up, with my dad leaving and then he would come back. And then my mom numbing out, and then her, trying to hold it together. And, the abuse that I saw her go through at the hands of my father, and the abuse that I went through that led to a very abusive first relationship. And I haven't been in a physically abusive relationship since my very first boyfriend in high school. I was like, absolutely never again. And that has never happened. But I have been in relationships that have been extremely emotionally challenging for me and very emotionally painful for me. And I have stayed in it way too long because of that emotional high pain tolerance that I am absolutely committed to unraveling. I've stayed in situations and relationships far too long that hurt so much because for me, learning growing up that suffering for love, that just feels like home. Not anymore. Okay, and number 5, proving, performing, and pleasing. I kind of touched on that in a couple of the other ones, but this deserves its own category. This has showed up my entire adult life, not just in my personal relationships. This has showed up in my career and in my work. From the time I started working at the age of 15, the pleasing, the performing, the proving myself constantly has been a constant, to be honest. And there's a part of that that has served me actually really, really well in my career, especially in corporate America. It has really served me well in a lot of different areas in becoming an entrepreneur, because the pleasing, I really want my clients to be happy. I want them to have the best. And when I don't deliver what I think is the best, or like everybody, we mess up. When I mess up, I feel it so deeply. Like it really affects me when I am not delivering something to my absolute best ability. And even in the moment, when I am doing the best I can in that moment, and there's a technical glitch or there's something going on that I can't control, I mean, I still just feel just devastated, which is another thing that goes back to my childhood. Any little mess up feels catastrophic. It feels, it's that fatalistic thing, like, one little mess up is going to turn into my dad blowing up and becoming violent. So I couldn't mess anything up. And so that has really been something that has taken such a stronghold on me in my adult life, that I have already started working on that a long, long time ago. But along with that is the proving and the pleasing and the performing. And those are really healthy things when there's healthy boundaries around those, which I didn't have and haven't had until recently. And I have to say, I probably still don't have the best healthy boundaries around that, but I'm working on it. That's something that is something I'm looking at all the time. I'm taking more time for myself right now, letting people know, hey, Sundays are my day for myself or my family. I really just need a day to just check out and do my own thing and not think about work, which is really hard for me. But the over-pleasing, it's when we're over-pleasing and we're over-performing, right? And we're over-proving ourselves. And the reason behind we're trying to prove ourselves is because we're begging for validation, because that's the way we were conditioned growing up. And once we understand that, once we realize that it's okay to want the clients to be really happy, we want to do our absolute best. I want to perform at my absolute optimum best level all the time. I want to prove that my clients are going to be 100% glad that they hired me and us and my company to do the job, right? But when we overly do that, and the underlying reasons that we do that are for really unhealthy, toxic reasons related to the way that we grew up, That's when we need to take a look at it and go, okay, I'm doing this for reasons that are really unhealthy. I'm doing these out of my past survival mode. These have been my absolute default settings my entire life, because that's how I navigated and survived love as a child. I just realized lately that fighting for love, instead of just really working on being open to receive, like for me to just relax and understand that I'm worthy to just receive love, I don't have to prove anything. I don't have to perform. I don't have to prove myself in order to receive love. This is brand new for me. That deep-seated MO that I've been operating from is honestly just because it feels so familiar. It feels so comfortable. It feels like that favorite old, beat up, got holes in it t-shirt that you just can't throw away. And that's what that has been feeling like for me until now. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, do you know how good it feels to put on a nice, crisp, beautiful, brand new shirt that you just bought? And feeling that and allowing yourself to receive this new gift or this new present or this new shirt. Like for me, that's kind of what it felt like when I had this realization that I don't need to fight for love anymore. I'm not in survival mode anymore. I'm not navigating love from a survival position. I'm not navigating love from a place of trying to avoid someone hurting me. I'm not navigating love from a place of pain and performance. I mean, so much just started making sense to me when I took the time and I took the weekend by myself to really allow myself the time, the space to ask myself the right questions and really listen and dig in. Like, it's not easy to dig in like that. It's not easy to look ourselves in the mirror and go, what is going on with you? Where is this coming from? Like, we have to start looking at ourselves in the mirror, dead in the eye, and going, where is this coming from? And so that weekend, and even now, this is part of who I am from way, 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 way back. Just hanging out with my younger self, just recognizing her and learning and growing and evolving together. And I know it sounds woo-woo and people are like, oh, inner child. You know what? That's a real thing for me. You can think whatever you want, but that is a real thing for me to address what happened to younger Michelle and acknowledge what happened to her and acknowledge how much of her and how much of all of that I have been dragging with me all this time. And the more I address that and the more I hang out with her and the more I choose to heal and the more I choose to dig in, each time I am unpacking that heavy bag of bricks. I am taking a brick by brick by brick out of that bag. And I am no longer dragging into the future. And that bag is getting so light. And what is happening in my life from unpacking those heavy bricks of my past, there's just some miraculous things happening. 2 years ago, I started a weight loss journey and a fitness and exercise and health and vitality. And I want to call it more my vitality commitment, because I want to be living a life of vitality until I can't. And the only way I'm going to be able to do that is if I take care of myself. And I'm going to be sharing the results of that journey very, very soon. But I have to tell you, this morning I got on the scale and I have not seen this number since the kidnapping. I am now the weight that I was. And I get emotional when the kidnapping happened, because after that I put on so much weight to hide. And unpacking that bag and doing all this healing work and sharing all of this with all of you and deciding I'm going to live with my soul wide open and be authentic and live my life just full out and not let the pain and the shame and the damage and the embarrassment and all of that be a part of what drives me or what is a part of my decision making anymore, and really being seriously, radically self-honest, radically authentic, and saying, I do not care what anybody thinks of me, what they think of how I live my life. I am going for this. I am going to heal all this. I am going to figure this out. And I am going to celebrate every single step of the way. And what has happened when I sort of let go of all of that, just the coolest things have been happening with my journey and wanting to move my body and not being afraid to go and explore and do things by myself. And I am meeting people, and I'm experiencing new amazing things living with my soul wide open. And I hope, and it is my intention, and not just hope, but it is my intention, that this somehow, some way, reaches every single person it's meant to reach, to light a fire under their ass, to do the exact same thing. So the deep work continues. And for me, the deep work won't ever end. That's my commitment to myself. That's my promise to myself. What promise are you going to make to yourself? To go from fighting for love, still living in survival mode mentality. What commitment are you going to make to yourself, and promise are you going to make to yourself that you are going to keep for the rest of your life? I would love to hear what that promise is. Hop on over to my Instagram, send me a quick DM. You can put it in the comments on YouTube. Just go to my YouTube channel, Soul Wide Open, just look it up, or go to Michelle. It's actually _ Michelle Renee _ on Instagram. I'm over on TikTok. I post a lot of great videos, a lot of content over on TikTok as well. It's the official Michelle Renee, so head on over there to TikTok. I hope I see you over there, and I will see you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in.